This way you are going to avoid all of those aisles that contain a number of things that will just be temptations to you. Hi everyone, it's Tina with Picture It Personal Finance, where I ask you to picture your goal, plan to achieve it, and enjoy your success. Today, I want to talk about grocery store shopping, especially during the pandemic. With pandemic and the desire to shelter in place, so many of us are falling into two patterns of behavior that don't really serve us when it comes to grocery shopping. The first is that we're trying to shop for extended periods of time, meaning that we might have previously shopped once a week and now we're trying to shop for a week and a half or for 2 weeks at a time. And this puts you in a situation where if you're purchasing a lot of perishables, if you're not consistent about freezing them or maintaining them properly, they will go bad on you and you can't get to them in time. So you're literally throwing money away. The other thing is that there's a bit of the hoarder mentality. There is the fear, especially with toilet paper, you guys all remember that food that you want or that your family enjoys or that you need will not be available the next time you go. So you buy in excess of what you need and you stick it in the freezer. And with all of that said, I have five tips for you that I am going to reinstitute in my life that have worked for me in the past and that I believe will work for you if you are struggling with these problems. First and foremost, you must have a meal plan. I had been attempting to create a meal plan for a week and a half, even though I was shopping every 2 weeks. And so I was really kind of winging it for 3 days, which ended up becoming ordering in. I don't want that for you guys. And if you are feeling like you can't plan out a week and a half or 2 weeks at a time, stick to a week. I'm going back to a week. I don't know why I tried to convince myself for so long I could do longer. A week is perfectly fine, and we're seeing, at least I am seeing locally, that the impact of the grocery stores is still there. There are still some foods that aren't available, but for the most part, everything that I would need, the staple items that I use for my common meals, are always available. If you have a difficult time meal planning, I highly encourage you to create a list of family favorites. I have a list of hits that take about an hour to an hour and a half to make, and then I have a longer list of those things that are 30-minute meal ideas. I will refer to those lists so that as I'm making my weekly list, I'm not doing the same meals week over week over week, and rather I've got some system of rotation in there. And then every now and again, if I'm feeling crazy, I will go look in my All Recipes app and I will look for something that I have designated as a favorite that I don't have written down and it's not something that's part of our typical rotation of meals, and try something new for a change. This is highly important because having that meal plan will generate for you a shopping list. Okay, so number one is have your meal plan and know the ingredients that are necessary for each of those items within that meal plan. Item number two is to shop your pantry. Now that so many of us have stocked up on foods, especially those foods that are perishable or have an expiration date that might be several months or even a year out. I mean, we've been in pandemic for quite a time now. Some of those foods might be coming close to expiration. Shop your pantry and make sure that you are using up those foods prior to the expiration date, and then also that alleviates your shopping list. If, for example, you have 3 jars of mayonnaise and you want to make a potato salad or a coleslaw, use up what's in the pantry first. Don't write mayonnaise onto your shopping list. If you have 3 jugs of milk frozen in your freezer like I may have right now, pull that out if you're looking to make fresh bread. Same thing with flour. I stocked up on flour like crazy for some reason, and I just have probably, I wish I was exaggerating, but I think I have like 15 or 20 pounds of flour between the garage freezer and the house pantry. So I am starting to work through those things. And I think you will all be surprised, especially if your pantry is one that runs deep. You've got stuff buried back there that you can absolutely use to make meals that you have forgotten about. Item number 3 is to create the shopping list. After you have done the meal planning and after you've shopped the pantry, but have a written list. Walk into the grocery store with a plan. Do not be one of those people that is, oh, I know what I want to make. I'll just remember what I need and I'll be able to grab it. Because when you do that, you will walk out with about 90% of what you need or possibly 80% of what you need, and then you'll have to make another trip. That's gas and time that you are throwing away. I mean, that's time, that's money, that's time and money that's spent in order to go and get those things that you should have gotten if the first time had you written your list out properly. Hold yourself to your list. Do not buy the extra things that just look good or suit your fancy and become an impulse purchase. As a matter of fact, I've heard this and I've employed it myself. Stick to the perimeter of the store, because in the perimeter of the store, that's where you're going to find the butcher, the deli, the bakery, and the dairy typically will be on the outskirts of the store, and produce as well. And this way you are going to avoid all of those aisles that contain a number of things that will just be temptations to you. I also highly recommend shopping at the same store. If you're the kind of person that wants to physically be at the store, shop at the same store all the time, because then you'll know exactly where everything is. And again, you won't have to be on the hunt looking for stuff. And then be tempted by materials or ingredients or snacks or what have you that have nothing to do with what you're going to be planning or preparing, what you're going to be preparing for the coming week. Another tip that I have, and I do employ this for at least 2 of the grocery stores that I have in my grocery shopping rotation, is to use online shopping for delivery or for curbside pickup. When I do that, I am going to literally stick to my list. There's no way for me not to stick to my list. The only pitfall with that is you have to decide when you're doing that, if they don't have the ingredient that you're looking for, whether or not you trust the person to choose a replacement that is an appropriate replacement, or whether or not you want to forego that item altogether. Tip number 5 is that if you have somebody who can watch them, leave the kids at home. Unless you're doing the curbside pickup, then I suppose it doesn't matter because they'll be sitting in the car with you anyway. But if you're going through the grocery store, leaving the kids at home really puts you in a position where you do not have to deal with the nagging requests for X, Y, and Z, whether it be cereal or cookie or ice cream, or the plethora of yummy little treats that they have at the checkout. I hate going through the checkout section with my kids because there is always gum and candy and sodas and things that they ask, and I get tired of saying no all the time. So I find myself saying yes more often than I care for, because let's be honest, nobody wants to say no all the time. And a bonus tip for those of you who stuck around to the end, and that is to promptly freeze your leftovers after you have finished for the night. I often will eat leftovers the next day, so if I only have a little bit of leftovers and that is my lunch the next day, then clearly I won't freeze it, but I will freeze large quantities of leftovers. I have a taco soup recipe that I freeze, and that can become easily 2 meals. Other things like lasagna, I'll make a large one or I'll make 2 small ones and I'll freeze the second one so that I have food that's already pre-made for another week when I don't have the energy. Also, a trick that I do is I'll get a pork shoulder and I will make pulled pork. I keep the barbecue sauce separate from it until we're ready to serve, because then the remainder of that pork shoulder I can set aside and freeze, and then that can become carnitas tacos on another night. So make sure that you're freezing those foods right away, because there's nothing worse than having a lot of leftovers and then cleaning out your fridge a week later and having to throw that away when that is probably something really delicious you made that you would have been grateful to have a week, 2 weeks, or even a month from the time that you prepared it. Guys, those are my 5 tips plus a bonus tip for reducing your grocery spending budget, so that you are either getting back in alignment with the budget that you've meant to hit, or that you are eliminating or diminishing the amount of money that you are spending on frivolous spends at the grocery store. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.